There you go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the West End Opportunity Partnership Special Board Meeting. I hope everyone had a wonderful day today. We'll go ahead and get started with our roll call.
Okay. All right. Sharon Allen. J. Michael Brown. Alicia Burns.
Here.
Dr. Douglas Craddock. Gina Dunlap. Gina Dunlap.
Present.
Okay. Jennifer Hancock. Tammy Hawkins. Keith L. Jackson. Now, Keith was having some camera problems, but Keith, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm present now.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you so
there.
much. Jessica Jackson. Darlene Johnson Jones.
Here.
Dr. Gabriel Jones Jr.
Here.
Dr. Gabe?
Yes.
I'm here. Can you all
He
hear me?
said here. Yes.
Yeah, now I can. Dr. Mary Milliner.
Here.
Michael Nagel. Mike Nagel.
Here.
Lyndon Pryor.
Here.
Lyndon Pryor.
Here.
Christopher Romaine. Christopher Romaine.
Oh, he is.
Here.
Mhm, okay.
I didn't hear him. Do you all hear him?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Desmond
Chris is
Smith
here.
Jr. Okay. Desmond Smith Jr. William Summers. Dr. Don Wade.
Here.
Gary Williams. All right, Williams. Monique Quarterman, proxy for Secretary Jeff Noel or Secretary Jeff Noel.
Here.
Here.
And my proxy is here.
Mhm.
Jeff O'Brien. Thank you. We have a quorum.
All right.
You're muted, Dr. Milliner.
Sorry. Thank you. So that brings us to our L-Home agreement. Did everyone have the opportunity to look over the agreement? It was sent to you prior to the meeting. I hope that you did. All right, so we need to take a vote on approving the property tax lending program agreement with L.
Dr. Milliner, before we call for a vote, if we have time, I'd like to make a couple of comments as we go into voting. I think this body has dedicated a considerable amount of time in reviewing the lending program. And as a result of your careful consideration, the final agreement with L Homes is to your liking, and it's even more substantial than the initial draft and perhaps our initial thoughts were. One thing that about which I want to assure you is L Homes expressed interest in doing the right thing by the clients that we will be serving through this agreement. When we first started talking to L Homes, one of the things that they wanted us to understand that in their whole history of dealing and making these property tax loans to people through their regular program, they had not ever repossessed a home or otherwise filed any kind of legal action against anyone for failing to pay back the loan. As we talked with them this time, we indicated to them that the board would feel more comfortable if we did have an expressed clause in the contract that said they would not foreclose. This was, as you can recollect, this was something that developed at the last board meeting, a concern about adding that clause. And as we talked to L Homes, they very quickly agreed to do that, because they said, you know, in our whole way of dealing, the way that we've outlined our process to you, we assured you that we do not foreclose on people's homes for failure to pay us back. So they very quickly went ahead and agreed to include that clause if it would make the board feel more comfortable. And I raised this and described the conversation with them just as an additional assurance to you that they are focused on those things that are of value to the board, that they do not, and they have not ever, and do not intend to take advantage of any lender through this program, that they are very excited and pleased. Not only the staff at L Homes, but the board itself is pleased with the opportunity to work with us. Now, Amy can go over the agreement and point especially to those ideas and concepts that were raised at the last board meeting to assure you again that those concepts have been included. But again, I think this is a very, very good move on our part, should the board endorse this agreement, because we are working with a partner who clearly shares our values and is willing to work conscientiously and in a forthright manner to serve the same folks that we are interested in serving. So Amy, do you want to walk the board through the salient features?
Yes.
Mhm.
And the first change, other than the date, you'll see is on the foreclosure provision on page 2. I do want to make sure everyone understands L Home does take a security interest in property. They do secure the loan. They do that for a couple of reasons. One is to just emphasize to the borrower that this is a serious obligation. But the other is to make sure that they have certain priorities if the borrower, if there is a foreclosure by, say, their mortgage lender, or there's a bankruptcy filing, then they are in the hopper as a secured interest. So they do not foreclose on those interests. They are committing in this document that they will not foreclose, but they will be taking a security interest in that. Let's see, Gina's got a question. Do you want to go? I can take questions as we go if you want.
Sure, or I can hold it to the end, but one of my questions did concern the security interest in understanding exactly what form that takes. Is that a mortgage on the property?
A security interest in real property would be a recorded mortgage.
Okay, thank you.
So, but like I said, they're contractually bound to us that they would never foreclose. That's just going to give them priority if there's some other action, such as a separate bankruptcy or someone else forecloses. So they have a chance to get in line, but
Mhm.
they're not going to foreclose on that security interest.
Right, they'll never initiate the foreclosure action.
Right,
Okay.
right. And I think that's a good place for me to also talk about, because I know you all were concerned about how this process would work, particularly if someone goes into default. As far as how they're going to apply, and I regret they were going to send us screenshots of the application because that's on their end and I don't have access to it, and I would just pull it up and show it how it works, because it's online for them, but they walk through an applicant and fill out the screen with them if an applicant comes to them needing to fill out an application. And they're going to use the same application they're currently using, because when they start the process with a potential client, they're not sure at that point what they're going to qualify for. So they're going to take their application and then screen it for all possible loans that El Home administers, including our loan, as far as what they'll qualify for. So once they get through that and they write the loan, let's assume someone gets behind in payments. What El Home does is they reach out proactively if they have not already heard from the borrower to attempt a workout, whether it's extending the term of the loan, changing the payment structure, whatever. Eventually they will write off a loan if it gets to that point. They've extended loans a year or more, but by that point, we'll be doing our check-ins and we'll know if we've got any borrowers in that kind of trouble. So that's how their typical process works. They are very proactive with their borrowers. And like I said, they've never foreclosed in the past, even though they had the right to, and they plan and obviously are not going to based on our sorry, my daughter's suddenly calling me. I'm just going to text her real quick. I'm in a meeting. Oh, she's texting me now. Yes, that's fine. Sorry.
It's that time of day.
17-year-old. Sorry. Okay. So that's how that will work. And they're going to keep us up in their reports on how many are getting behind. So we can talk proactively with them during the process of, about how this is working and any problems they're seeing, any repetitive issues they're seeing, those kinds of things. And then the next, Mr. Pryor, Lyndon, I see you. So you've got your hand up too.
Yeah, I guess that question about them securing the loan, and this is purely out of ignorance. Do we know what impact that has on the residents' credit? And is El Home, are we certain that they're going to talk to residents about that?
Yes, they said they do talk them through the process of getting a security interest, because obviously they're going to have to execute the security interest. And that would possibly impact their credit. I mean, hopefully these are small loans and it will not be a big impact. But yes, the taking of a security interest and being publicly reported could possibly impact their credit.
And that would be an activity that was initiated by a creditor or a credit rating bureau rather than by the lender. One of the things that they do is prior to making the loan, each borrower goes through extensive credit counseling, which does include discussions about the impact of default on credits.
Yeah, but they did, in our discussions, commit to attempt to do everything. I mean, we know the taking of the security interest is going to hit like a credit report, and that itself could impact credit. But then once they get into a default posture, they do everything they can to try to mitigate any credit impact of that default as part of the workout, to try to make sure that there's nothing that hits a credit report indicating a default. They work with them to avoid that. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I know there were questions about late payment penalties. We put in there that they can lend for late payment penalties to the extent they're assessed, though the sheriff's office and the PVA did confirm that that is not supposed to be charged, at least in the upcoming year, in our 9 neighborhoods. But we did put that in here that if someone needed a loan for penalties, they can use our fund for penalties. So if they, don't come to them until June and there were a late payment penalty, they can still use our funds for penalties, the way this is drafted. Okay, Gina? Yeah.
Amy, can you clarify what you mean by the sheriff and the PVA not charging penalties? I mean, so is that if somebody pays in February, they're not going to have to pay over the gross amount?
Yes, remember that we reported a couple of board meetings back that we had had discussions with the PVA's office and also with the sheriff's office, and representatives from L Homes went with us to those meetings. The sheriff's office, who receives the property tax payments that are made, indicated that they would be willing to waive penalties. They understand the difficulties that folks in these areas are facing. They know that we are working to provide assistance, and their contribution to that is to waive penalties if it will make it easier for residents to be current and to get a loan.
So the amount that might be showing up that is owed in February will be inaccurate and based on what's on the bill.
Well, remember, the bill shows you what the penalty will be if you don't pay by a certain date.
Right.
So when the resident receives the bill, they already know what the possible penalty could be.
Right, but I guess there's a set of property owners then, whether or not they want to partake in the loan program, who probably don't know that they don't have to pay the penalty, if that's the case.
If they do a loan with L Homes, they don't have to do the penalty. The other folks who fall outside of that are not really, the PVA and the sheriff's office are not regarding them as relevant to the process. They're talking about their willingness to work with people who are trying to get these loans to make payments.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
no, they're not going to generally waive penalties, but they're
Only
willing
those-
to do a separate special process for those who will borrow from L Homes to pay the tax bill.
Wow, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, and again, I thought we talked about that a couple of board meetings back. Okay.
Making sure I don't see any more hands right now. Okay. The next provision, the next couple of ones were just typos that I corrected in this draft. And then down in paragraph 4, we've added a 3-month check-in to the first year. I know there was a request that we check in both at 3, 6, and 12 months as opposed to just at the 6 month. So that's in there. I've also added in that paragraph, a very good point that we didn't address what happens to our money that's sitting at L Home when this agreement expires, if it's not renewed. So it does clarify that any unused funds in the loan pool will be returned to the partnership, less any fees we still owe under paragraph 5, where they're getting basically their origination fee. In paragraph 6, we've added that when the repayments are made, that will apply to principal, interest, and penalty, all of that, to the extent any penalty is paid. We don't think that's going to be an issue, but we just wanted to cover it. But also looping in any interest, even though there really shouldn't be interest charged on these because we've said they won't, but I threw that in. And that's really it as far as the changes we've made. And I think Gina's got her hand up.
Thank you, Amy. I threw it up there specifically related to the interest and penalty because I thought in previous paragraphs it said that unlike their normal standard program offering that charges 3 to 5%, our clients are not being charged
Yeah.
the interest at all, right?
Yeah, we can take the interest out. As I was explaining that, I realized interest didn't need to be there. So that can come out, but the penalty was just in case in future years, they do have to lend for the penalty. Since we know, at least for now, the sheriff and PVA are going to work with us. This is a 5-year agreement. So yeah, we can line out interest, and if you all approve this today, we can approve it with the interest lined out at page 6 or paragraph 6.
Okay. Generally, I'm trying to get an understanding, just a broad understanding of the program. Is the partnership providing the money to pay the base year tax amount as well as the incremental increase?
Yes, that's what El Home asked for. And some of what we talked about the last time is El Home was concerned that if we only gave them money for the incremental increase, and this was advertised, that their existing loan program was going to get oversubscribed and it was going to take money and it was going to cut in their money for their other programs. So their request was that for the same amount of money we were talking about, they wanted us to also fund the underlying loan just for people obviously in our 9 neighborhoods. And that part would clearly be a loan. We'd still treat it as interest-free. And especially in this first year, we'd see how this money goes out. It is in excess of our obligation under the statute. You don't have to lend for the underlying loan amount. We only have to lend for the incremental increase. But it's also within your mission to do something like this too. It's not contrary
Yes.
to your mission. We're just not compelled to do it.
Yes,
So that's basically what's presented here is for 75,000, which is less than 1 month's interest we're making currently on the money that's in the bank. We can start this is one way to go ahead and start using that money. And so that was El Home's request and what we brought to you in this agreement.
mhm.
And so what
So
is
then-
the impact of the portion that may be treated as a grant? So it says it may be, not that it will be.
Yes, their plan for the first year is for every borrower who comes to them is they want to treat the incremental increase as a grant, every one of them. They don't want to have criteria and us see how that affects it. I wrote it as May, just so we'd have some flexibility so that if we come back the next year and we decide that's not necessary, we can develop criteria at either our 3, 6, or 12-month thing. But the plan is for the first year for that to be a gift and do a loan for the underlying amount. Or at least that's what's presented to.
Yes. And I think, again, the intent of both El Homes and the partnership is to work out a process and a program that can be user-friendly, that does not result in harm to the clients, and really helps to further the mission of both organizations. I think there's a lot of remarkable goodwill that's involved in the agreement, the way that it's drafted, and that goodwill is directed towards the folks in the neighborhood. And again, as Amy mentioned, the total cost to us of this contract currently is less than we are making in interest off of our current deposits. So there is virtually no financial risk for us to do this. But again, it garners a great deal of goodwill.
Yeah, to the extent the board wants to do this, this is essentially your first investment in the neighborhood. That's beyond what you're required to do under the statute.
Mhm.
And what are what's the long term going to be?
The typical loan term is, Laura, do you remember? I think they said 6 months and then they usually extend it to a year if someone's having payment
Yes.
problems.
Yes. Yes.
So 6 months standard.
Yeah.
And do we know when they're going to kick off the program? When are they going to start taking applications?
For accounting reasons, and since we're in December, they wanted us to fund it as of January 1, and they can start taking applications then. Yeah, I'm assuming that was for all kinds of tax and regulatory reasons. They didn't want to get a new program and a big hunk of money in December that they have to account for in 2023.
Recording in progress.
Okay. So referencing, I guess, back to the let's see, in section 2, I think it was, referencing the requirements of the lending program. There's talk about assisting clients with filing their taxes so that they can actually claim the new income tax credit. That's included in the language of the program requirements. And so I'm wondering, is L Home preparing by virtue of this agreement to do I guess, a tax return preparation program as well?
No,
We're gonna have to separately deal with that. L Home
Yes.
doesn't want to do the income tax part, so we're gonna have to come to you all in January with a separate plan for anyone who needs assistance in filing for the refundable tax credit.
Mhm.
And whether that ends up looking like, we've got, accountants in the neighborhood and we have some on retainer and we pick up the cost, or however we do that. L Home's not going to be part of that, but yes, that is part of our statutory obligation.
Yeah,
And we've
and that
still got to put
obligation-
that part together.
That obligation stays with us. This agreement does not transfer that to L Home. That's our current responsibility still.
Yeah, this is just to do the property tax and lending side of it, but
Yes.
not the income tax side.
Okay. And then I guess my last question has to do with, I guess, the distribution of proceeds from the repayments. It looks like 50% of what is paid comes back to the partnerships lending program, but L Home gets to retain and appropriate the other half of the proceeds as they see fit with no, I guess, constraints.
Other than it's got to be used in one of our 9 neighborhoods.
For any of their lending programs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and their programs are small business and residential. So that, again, that's a board decision of how you all want to, if you want to approve it as written, or if there's something else you all want to do. But yes, it's currently written that the only restriction we've put is it's got to be in one of our 9 neighborhoods.
Mhm.
And I guess can you maybe help us understand the logic of that, of them retaining 50% of the proceeds?
Yes, again, the amount of money that's at risk is $75,000. Their business line not only includes making these loans, they're already making these loans to help people pay their property taxes, but their business line concerns already involves making small business loans to clients, businesses in the neighborhood. Now, this is something that is consistent with our mission because we are in the business development and business assistance business. That's part of the responsibility of the partnership. So it made sense to us that part of the proceeds can be used to further L Homes in business that they're already doing, particularly since the amount of money we're talking about for the overall service is at a level that really does not impact us in a significant way financially.
I think the other part too, and they requested this, but the other part is it gives them a carrot to actually collect on the loans and not just say, well, this isn't our money, so we're not.
Yes.
We can just write it off at the end. They've got skin in the game. I hate that term, but that's kind of what the point is, that they're going to get something here if they go out and actually work and collect on the loans.
Yeah, so if we ask, why would L Home want to enter into an agreement like this with us? It's because by doing so, we can help support the base business that they're already doing. That's the get for them. And what they're already doing in the neighborhood is activity that we support anyway. That's part of what our mission is. So
And that would be in addition to, so that incentivizes, pursuit of repayment, but they also get the administrative fee of 15%, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Amy? If not, Madam Chair, I think we can circle back to your initial purpose and your initial attempt to call for a vote on the question before the body.
Okay. All right, so if there are no further questions, do we have a vote? Sorry, give me 1 second, make sure I'm phrasing it exactly correctly. Hold on. Oh, wrong one. Okay, here we go. If there are no further questions, I would like to call for a vote to approve the property tax lending program agreement with L Home. All in favor? Say aye.
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 I guess I have a point of order,
Oh, yes,
Madam
ma'am.
President. So, I guess typically we would need a motion and a second in order to have a vote. And then that brings the question of, I guess, who's making the motion? Is this coming out of committee or not?
Okay, so for this meeting, since it's a special meeting, everyone is aware that there's only one matter on the agenda. It is okay for the chair to call the question. She can do that for purposes of expediency. So she hasn't done anything inappropriate. But if it would make you feel more comfortable, rather than doing that, someone can make the motion to approve it. What she's done is correct, though. She's assumed the motion. And that's correct under Robert's rules.
And with assuming a motion, it doesn't require a second?
That's right.
Okay.
Because that's the only matter on the agenda. Everyone is aware that it's the only matter on the agenda. And the chair can assume the motion to have and then we just vote.
Thank you.
Okay. So is everyone comfortable doing that way, or do you want to have a motion and a second? Okay. All right, Madam Chair. Sorry.
Once again, call for a vote to approve the property tax lending program agreement with L Home. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. Any abstentions? The motion carries.
It's a big step.
Mhm.
There you go, Russ.
Big step.
Are there any further comments, questions, or concerns at this moment?
No, I do want to make one quick comment, and I know we had planned to have this last week and it got pushed to this week on Wednesday. That is completely me. I apologize. I just wanted you all to know that everybody's been working on this, but my father had been in the hospital for 2 weeks, so I got a little behind. So I do apologize that it drug out that long since our board meeting. So that was me.
No problem. All right, well, if there is nothing further, we stand adjourned.
Thank
Bye,
you all
everyone.
for your time and have a good
Have a wonderful
evening.
holiday.
Thank you,
Happy
everyone. Thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.